Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be talking about the North Node in Gemini transit, which is going to begin on May 5th, 2020, and will end on January 18th, 2022. Now, of course, I'm talking about the true node as far as the North Node goes. So, anyway, well, the first thing, obviously, to me that stands out when you're talking about the North Node entering Gemini, of course, it's transitioning from more introverted homebody Cancer into more personable, sociable Gemini. Now, a lot of this is about, the North Node is about our future, our destiny, our mission at this time. And I think a lot of this is going to manifest in a future toward being more communicative, loquacious, being more diversified and showing versatility. This is about being more personable. A lot of this, this can manifest in a number of ways. Many of you may know we are going through this coronavirus pandemic, and I'm hoping that this could actually be a very good a sign where people are going to be emphasizing short journeys more, where people are going to gradually not be as homebound as they previously were. As many of you may know and realize that the coronavirus has inhibited people in many ways as far as their short journeys. They're traversing to different places, and because many people have been confined to their homes for a longer period, and during times where we have to be due to these stipulations by the government or what have you. And the way this may manifest again is that you may see people starting to come out more, where maybe you're going to have a little bit more leniency as far as going outside of your home goes. Now, the thing about this too is the fact when you're talking about the North Node in Gemini in transit, there's going to be also a period where you're going to see a lot more emails and assimilation of information, messaging. I think, and also to keep in mind, another way this can manifest and pan out for people out there is, like, say, if this, going back again to the coronavirus pandemic, if people are going to be inside a little bit more, for at least in the beginning part of this transit, say due to government stipulations and restrictions or what have you, that a lot of this could be more time that people are going to be on the internet as a result. And the thing about this is you're going to have more time to do emails and messaging and things of that nature, corresponding with people online. But also too, remember that the Gemini energy could be somewhat superficial, so this could be about more superficial connections as well. Say if you have this transit going on in your 7th house, this could be about really obtaining maybe more superficial type relationships at this time, and I could actually see it going down like that, because again, if people are going to be home a little bit more as a result of this coronavirus situation going on, there's more time where you might be dominated by the internet more, and being involved perhaps with people that you just don't know as well or as intimately as you may want to. And also, it could be a time for more eloquence, it could be a very auspicious period for people that are in like Gemini type cut fields. Writers, people that are involved in messaging, that work with, that do things that involve strong use with the hands, where they show dexterity, like being involved in auto mechanics, or like doing something with refrigeration repair. It could be somebody juggling. People that are doing things where the hands are very useful. Now, also too, it's a time too where it might be a time to be a little bit more inquisitive than usual. If you're somebody, especially if you have a chart which indicates, well, you're not a person that always asks a lot of questions. Say you have like a Taurus dominant chart, you have the Sun, Moon, or Ascendant in Taurus. Taurus. As many of you may know, I have my ascendant in Taurus, even though my moon is in Gemini. The thing about it is I might not always ask enough questions. I have this transit will be in my first house for the majority of the period, so it might be a time where I'm starting to become really emphasizing more questions, as far as being more inquisitive, asking more questions. I've had at least one person criticize me that I don't really, or intimate that I don't really ask enough questions. I'm just kind of like, okay, well, yeah, that's good and everything. But this is a time where people are going to be wanting to inquire more about just regarding various things, and of course a lot of that could be dependent, predicated on the house that it's going to transit. Now, the thing about, and again, it could be very auspicious for Gemini-like type positions. Again, it could be like data communications, satellite communications, people that work with information technology, writers, people, just anybody that's in like a Gemini type profession, because they're talking about where our future is going, the destiny at this time. And also, keep in mind too, when you're talking about the North Node transiting Gemini, of course you're going to have the South Node transiting Sagittarius. And when you're talking about the South Node in astrology, it can reflect what we're trying to get away from. And the fact that it's in Sagittarius, this could be about, well, going away from just maybe self-righteous beliefs, philosophies, being presumptuous, going away from making just these very blunt, tactless statements without necessarily assimilating the facts as far as that goes, and just general foolhardy, reckless behavior. Remember that Sagittarius energy could be strongly tied in with the outdoors. And Gemini energy is more, I mean, Sagittarius could be cerebral, don't get me wrong, but Gemini could be a little bit more indoorsy, I think, compared to Sagittarius. So it's almost like a lot of people may be going away from doing what we need, doing as far as long distance traveling. And again, a lot of this could be tied in to these restrictions and stipulations that many people are experiencing in the world as far as traveling abroad. And it's more about going to our own neighborhood. I mean, Gemini is more connected with short journeys, our own neighborhood, as opposed in contrast to long distance journeys and traveling abroad. And the thing about this too is it's also going away from perhaps being over optimistic and over enthusiastic about things. Again, it goes back to perhaps not getting all the factual information that is needed. Gemini energy is more about obtaining the concrete facts, in contrast to just forming philosophies and opinions on matters. And Sagittarius energy is also about speaking the veritable truth, or what Sagittarius could believe. As far as that goes, the energy is about speaking what they believe, people believe is the truth. And it can be, again, going back to the fact, to be very tactless, very blunt energy, where Gemini energy sometimes will say things that just people simply want to hear. I think a lot of this, what people got to keep in mind, it's not necessarily all about eradicating all the South Node, it's Sagittarius energy during this transit. It can be about incorporating it simply with the Gemini North Node energy and being able to say, okay, speak that veritable truth, so to speak, but say it in a way where it might go off a little bit better with others. Articulate it well and say it in a way where it's not going to necessarily be offensive to somebody. It doesn't come across as an inflammatory remark. So anyway, now, as far as this transit goes, of course, it could impact all collectively, but especially somebody that has, people that have a Gemini sun, moon, or ascendant, or a Sagittarius sun, moon, or ascendant, and especially this will be very intensified when it makes the conjunction to one of those points in one's natal chart. I mean, if it's hitting the ascendant, of course, it can be about issues with the physical body one may have to confront or address, because when you're talking about the North Node and North Node in transit, it can be connected with that. Now, South Node is about more what we're going away from, but it doesn't, but I think it could still about the issues that one may have to address. If you're going to say if this is hitting one's Gemini ascendant, it could be about issues with the physical body, Gemini-related issues perhaps with the physical body one may have to confront or address, such as something with the lungs, the respiratory area, something with the arms, the shoulders. It could be like some of the hands, like carpal tunnel syndrome, anything that can be Gemini related. And of course, not to be redundant with this, but we are in this coronavirus period, and the thing about it is many people, of course, are experiencing issues that are related to breathing at this time, and I believe with the lungs as well, and those are some of the symptoms that are connected with this issue. Hold on a moment, people. Sorry about that, I'm back. But anyway, and again, going to the fact that these can be about issues that one may have to confront or address, many collectively may be having to deal with more issues associated with slander. It could be with gossip. Say if you have this transit in your 10th house, you might be having to deal with issues that are where people are gossiping about you, and it may be affecting your reputation, your public image. They could be about slanderous lies. Many people may be dealing with more malicious mischief. At this time, there could be more issues with identity theft, forgery, dealing with prevarication, again, going back to gossiping and slandering people. This is an issue. These are issues that might be more prevalent at this time, since we're talking about the North Node in Gemini in transit. And the thing about this too is, and again, I want to emphasize again that ideally this is about, it could be about integrating the South Node in Sagittarius energy with the North Node in Gemini. Yes, the South Node is generally going to be about energy that we're trying to get away from and put more focus and attention on the North Node energy, but you still can incorporate some of the South Node in Sagittarius energy into the North Node in Gemini energy. South Node in Sagittarius, I mean, a lot of this could be about going away to some degree from what was as far as higher education, what we were learning after high school. And the thing about it is, but a lot of this can be incorporating that energy that we learned, whether it was in college or post-high school learnings, into the North Node in Gemini, the street savvy, the shrewd energy, common sense energy. I mean, this could be a very good period, I would say, for people that are in law enforcement, people that are detectives that often have a good education as far as post high school education and being learned in matters pertaining to the law, and the thing about it in criminology or what have you. But at the same time, when you're in that kind of profession, it also is about emphasizing being street savvy and shrewd and cunning. It could be like people that are interrogating criminals, that are using a lot of their interrogation methods from what they learned in their schooling, but at the same time can incorporate some street savviness in it, such as presenting a box to somebody and saying, well, we have evidence in here that can incriminate you when there's really nothing in it, things of that nature. So those are some ways this may manifest and pan out. And like as far as of course, going back to the house that this transit's in one's natal chart, that obviously can impact the delineation and interpretation strongly for you. Now, in my chart, interestingly enough, it's going to be transiting my first house for the majority of the transit. Now, a lot of this for me might manifest in moving toward, it could be Gemini new beginnings, or simply about developing more street savviness as a person, being in my first house, being more shrewd, being more emphasizing common sense more in my nature, and then and maybe moving away to some degree. The fact that that means that the transit South Node in Sagittarius will be in my 7th house for most of the period. That could indicate moving away more from things that are related to higher education with others in general, things that I may have picked up after high school and sharing them with others, because at this time the emphasis may be more on developing more street savvy qualities for me, and because being in my first house more from a personal gratification standpoint for my own reasons, so to help myself as opposed to helping others with matters connected with higher education, things that I may have learned from higher education basically. Now I haven't had any college in my life, but at the same time higher education, I put in quotes, I could perceive or see as being things you may have learned when you were out of high school. So anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment. Until next time, people, Edwin Learnard saying stay well.